All right, here we go. Good morning, everybody. Today is March 9th. I'm Mr. Sheridan. This is Zoology. Today we are going to continue talking about market lambs and what the things are that we look for when we are evaluating market lambs. So the first thing we've talked a lot about in cattle, kind of our priority list. What are the first things that we need to look for? You're going to notice that this priority list is going to be relatively similar to what we discussed with market steers. We talked about yesterday in our first day with market lambs. If nothing else, if you view these sheep as little cattle, if you're more comfortable with that, that works. But when, and these things are all subject to subjectivity. Some lambs are going to, you're going to prioritize some of these things differently in some classes than others, but for the most part, we're looking for muscle, we're looking for leanness. Again, in steers, the biggest difference between steers and sheep, steers have got to have some fat because we were looking for them to grade choice, to have a good quality grade, meaning that animal needs to have some fat so that they have some intramuscular fat. That same correlation does not add up in sheep, mostly because their fat doesn't taste good as cattle. So we want some of that intramuscular fat in cattle. We do not need it in sheep. So we're looking for muscle leanness. Then we're looking for pattern, which in cattle we described as rib shape and balance and profile and that sort of thing. In sheep, we call it pattern. What the outline of that sheep looks like. We want them to be tall at the point of their shoulder. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. We want them to be long-bodied, long and level down their top and on their underline so that they're deep in their flank. We want them to be level out of their dock. We want that hind leg to set in there the way that we want it to. All of those things go into pattern. In sheep, a big deal is their front end. We want them to be smooth-shouldered and long, jet-necked. We want that neck to tie in high at the point of their shoulder. All those things go into pattern. We'll talk a little bit more about front ends and how important they are in sheep tomorrow maybe. So we do talk a little bit of balance and structural correctness, like we got into a little bit yesterday, just isn't as important in sheep because they don't live as long. Typically, these are market lambs. Most of those lambs are going to be born in the early springtime, right around this time, or January, February. And most of those lambs are going to be harvested somewhere around July, August, September. So we're talking about 6 months of their lives, that as opposed to cattle, which are going to take somewhere around 18 months to get to full maturity. So, and that's maybe a little bit long, but the point is that, and because they aren't as big, structural correctness isn't as important in sheep, but we do want them to be structurally correct. It just goes a little farther down on the priority list. Let's go through our terms really quick. In the class today, you're going to hear in the set of reasons. Again, we get the class that we're going to judge today. You'll hear a set from the same guy that was the national champion in, I think it was 20 or 18, something like that. But he talks this class and uses the term washed out in their loin. When you're evaluating sheep, and we'll talk a lot about this when you're handling, that's when you would actually handle this lamb and be able to handle for this trait. When lambs get washed out in their loin, it means as they get older and they're lighter muscled, their actual backbone will start to stick up, and you can handle and you can feel that backbone actually on your hand. And their muscle, which is kind of our bread and butter, our loin, from their last rib to their hip bone, that's their loin, you'll feel that it's actually a little washed out, meaning that it's not flexing. We talked about bracing sheep the other day and why it's important. You want them to be flexed the whole time. It's so that they don't handle washed out down their top. Point of their shoulder is right here. For my horse friends, you might call this the withers. In livestock, we call it the point of their shoulder. So where their neck ties in, we want them to be tall at the point of their shoulder. We want them to be in, and it's kind of the starting point. We want their neck to tie in high at the point of their shoulder. It's so that they're more attractive on a profile. Okay. So I want to try to set this up so that you all can see. And I think this is the best place to do it, but I got to move some of my junk out of the way. For those of you who are online and aren't participating in Spirit Week, it is pajama day today, which is why I'm dressed like this. Let's see if we can at least try to show how this is going to work. So if we use Daisy here and we pretend that Daisy is a sheep, and keep in mind that you all are going to have to do this, okay? We're going to set up a thing. We're going to disinfect Daisy. You're all going to do this. So make sure that you're paying attention, okay? We're going to do this in a few steps. The first thing that we're going to handle is right down their top. You're going to approach this lamb from the rear. You're going to use this as a view. You'll see in the livestock judging classes, they always give you this kind of view from the rear so that you can see the shape of this animal. First thing you're going to do, and the most important thing when you handle sheep, your fingers stay together. And the best way to demonstrate this, and I want you all to do this, act like you're, participating. Here we go. Roll your sleeves up. I want you to keep your hands together, and I want you to handle your forearm and then the back of your hand. That's the difference between a fat sheep, and this is what we're looking for. And you're going to handle, and as you get old and fat like me, then you'll start to feel this too. If you want to do this on yourself, you can kind of get an idea. But when you keep your hands together, or your fingers together, you can handle these things. You can handle the difference between this, which is going to be somewhere around a ½ inch to even more of fat, versus this, which is around a ¼ inch, which is kind of what we're looking for on sheep. So as we handle this lamb, the first thing we're going to do, we're going to start over their rack and their shoulder. You got your hand like this, and you're going to go down their top, and you're feeling for that backbone that we talked about. We don't want them to be washed out in their muscle. So hopefully that lamb, we're feeling a wide, flat, and as you can feel a muscle on your body. That's what we're looking for. If you feel that backbone sticking up out of there, that's a problem. Then you're going to start back at the front again. You're still keeping your fingers together, but you're actually cupping their top this time. And this time, as you go down, think of it, you got one animal here, one there, one there, one there. You got 4 lined up. So you're trying to measure how wide this lamb's top is. So you're going to feel how wide, how expressive, how you think about, when you grab a hold of a muscle, you want it to feel like it's flexed. You want it to feel like this animal has some muscle there and that you can actually handle that muscle. So we're going down their top first to feel for that backbone. Then we're going to turn our hand and go down their top again. Then we're going to take our other hand, keep both of them together. And if you think about this on yourself, if you're handling, this would be your last rib down here. We're going to start up here and handle all along the rib of this animal. We're going to start down here. This is the first place that they're going to put fat on. This is going to feel smoother. You're not going to be able to feel many ribs down here typically. This is Daisy. You're not going to feel any ribs anyway. And then you're going to slowly draw a line from down here where they're going to put fat on first, all the way up to their last rib, where that should be one of the last places that they put on fat. You're going to feel more rib. You're going to feel more bone there. So we're down here. Then we're handling like this to figure out how wide that top is. Then we're handling for fat. Then we are taking those hands at the same time. We're going to find that last rib. We're going to actually tuck it in and put our fingers at the top, at the last rib, and our thumbs go on their hip bone. And again, we're measuring that loin. We're going to do that 4 times. Devin, you with me? You're going to put your hands here, your fingertips there, your thumbs down here, so that you can feel how long their loin is. Again, most valuable cut of meat is right here. So we're trying to get a really good feel for how wide that piece of meat is versus its contemporaries in class. So we're measuring that loin, and then very gently, very respectfully, we're going to actually cup that lamb's leg. And again, we're trying to measure how big that leg is so that we can compare it to the other lambs in class. The more leg, the more volume of muscle that that lamb has in their leg, the more that that's a good thing. We want them to have more. We want them to have more leg. Okay, so those are the 4 steps. So we're going to do this twice, down the top twice. Then you're going to handle over their rib. Then you're measuring loin. Then you're measuring leg. It can look like this. It can go pretty quickly. This is what we're doing. We're keeping our fingers together all the time. And then you're cupping back here to see how big that leg is. I want every single person to do it. I'm going to bring Daisy around. I'm going to disinfect Daisy. Poor thing. She's going to get sprayed with disinfectant a lot today. But I want everybody to show how we're going to do this. While we're going through this, if you want to jump into blasteddigging.com, you are welcome to, and start working on our class of market lambs.